First time auntie.
You're not the first person. Something else?
Go away. All right. Okay. Marie, just tell me, you're going to be my person that tells me if I'm standing out of view. Should be good. Okay, well, thanks for joining me for this presentation. No pressure doing a presentation on public speaking while you're public speaking. The reason I think I was asked to do this, I've done a fair amount of public speaking at WCS, prior to WCS, and then also in my former job working for the Air Force. Did a lot of outreach, a lot of educational stuff. And I'm by no means an expert at all, but I really enjoy kind of analyzing other public speakers and making fun of what they do wrong, and also finding out what they do right so I can implement those in what I do. So I just have kind of like been really interested in it, and I had a great class on leadership and public speaking as a part of my MBA program, and it just really felt like I took a lot of things from that. So I'm going to share a lot of that information with you, and hopefully it's helpful when you guys are speaking both professionally and then also if you have to give a speech in some sort of scenario. So, all right, I'm going to start off with 2 videos. I'm going to take a look at just some styles, and I just want you to think open-minded, be open-minded about these 2 styles and think about maybe what these people did successfully or maybe what they did that could be improved upon. Okay? All right. Hopefully I can still do this right. All right, first one. Inevitably, we have to do a set talk. Can't see it? The remote people's hands? What you got? I got an idea. The mirror. I'm not going to do the mirror. All right. I'm going to play them at the same time so they can see them and you can see them. Ready?
Thinking of the TED audience as a wonderful collection of some of the most effective, intelligent, intellectual, savvy, worldly, and innovative people in the world, and I think that's true. However, I also have reason to believe that many, if not most of you, are actually tying your shoes incorrectly. Now, I know that seems ludicrous. I know that seems ludicrous, and believe me, I lived the same sad life until about 3 years ago. And what happened to me was I bought what was for me a very expensive pair of shoes, but those shoes came with round nylon laces, and I couldn't keep them tied. So I went back to the store and said to the owner, I love the shoes, but I hate the laces. He took a look and said, oh, you're tying them wrong. Now, up until that moment, I would have thought that by age 50, one of the life skills that I had really nailed was tying my shoes. But not so. Let me demonstrate. This is the way that most of us were taught to tie our shoes. Now, as it turns out, thank you. But wait, there's more. As it turns out, there's a strong form and a weak form of this knot. Now, we were taught to tie the weak form, and here's how to tell. If you pull the strands at the base of the knot, you can see that the bow will orient itself down the long axis of the shoe. That's the weak form of the knot. But not to worry. If we start over and simply go the other direction around the bow, we get this, the strong form of the knot, and if you pull the cords under the knot, you will see that the bow orients itself along the transverse axis of the shoe. This is a stronger knot. It will come untied less often. It will let you down less, and not only that, it looks better. We're going to do this one more time. Start as usual. Go the other way around the loop. This is a little hard for children, but I think you can handle it. Pull the knot. There it is, the strong form of the shoe knot. Now, in keeping with today's theme, I'd like to point out, and something you already know, that sometimes a small advantage someplace in life can yield tremendous results someplace else. Live long and prosper.
How many of you guys have seen that? A couple. Okay, only one. Okay. Okay, good. Good. All right. Now I'm going to show you another one. I promise I won't torture you with this one for very long.
This is my presentation about Brazil. Brazil is in South America.
Painfully swimming.
Brazil officially Federation of Federation Brazil. It's the largest country in both South American and Latin American regions. The world's fifth largest country, both geographical area and by population. It's the largest least developed country in the world and the only one in the Americas, bounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the East. Brazil has a coastline of 7,000 kilometers,
Okay, that's enough. You kind of get the gist. Right? Like, that's simple enough. You understand. You understand. Let's stop there. It's horrible. Okay, move back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so maybe I Googled PowerPoint bad, but it's really hard to find a bad presentation that's published online, right? Right. So, all right. So, looking at those two, what specifically? Good? Still good with technology? All right. What specifically do you notice is the difference between two? Obviously, there are clear differentiators between the two, but like what specifically? Okay, body language immediately. So posture is different. She was turned like completely this way for some of the time. What else is different?
Reading off the screen.
Reading off the screen. But how many, like if you think about what you do, like how many of you have put bullets on the screen to read off of because they're reminders for you? All of us. Like I find myself doing that. I put bullets on the screen and then I read off of them. And I'm like, well, that's not, I shouldn't be doing that. Like I should be telling my story and the bullet should emphasize that. But that happens a lot. And I think we think about putting everything we need on the screen in case we need it and then we end up trying to read it. Do you think that the people you're presenting to are going to read that paragraph during your presentation? No. And if they do, then they're reading that and not listening to you. And you want them to listen to you. So that's another thing. Talking about the guy with the shoe, which is a really boring topic, do you think that he was engaging and able to capture your attention? I heard the title. Yeah, I mean that's a boring topic. I mean, in fact, that was when you looked at top 10 worst TED Talks, that was listed on there, and I was like, it may be a boring topic, but he really conveyed that information effectively and very succinctly, showed you an example, showed you the difference between bad and good, and convinced all of us by the end how we should be doing it, right? Like how many of you when you were done were thinking, oh my God, I'm going to try that, right? I mean, he clearly got that message across and was able to get you to buy into it. And now you're like, okay, I'm going to do that. So he's able to take you on a journey from, this is what you did before, here's the evidence to show you that there's a better way, it's my way, but it's also going to be your way. And then at the end, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so even though he's not a super dynamic guy, right, he's not like jumping around, doesn't have an incredible engagement in his voice, he is able to convey that message in a really clear manner. And so I think there's a lot of things that you can do. You don't have to be some extrovert to be a great presenter. You can change a couple of things in the way you present things in your style that can actually convey your message in a really effective manner and capture your audience. So that's kind of my big thing, is making sure that you're keeping the attention of your audience. And when we think about this, I have to do this at the same time, so I've noticed. When we think about this, you and your audience, when you're giving a presentation, I think our big pitfall is we're presenting based on our personal ideas. And the first thing that I like to do is differentiate between you and your audience. All right, so here's you. This is you about to give a presentation on something that's interesting to you, right? So if I'm giving a presentation to, for example, most of you know I'm in the Army Reserve. I'm giving a presentation as a dietitian to a group trying to convince them to eat healthier. I'm super pumped because I'm obviously a dietitian. I'm like, this is so exciting. You guys really need to learn this. You're going to change your life if you eat this way. You're going to be healthier, stronger, happier, etc. This is them. mostly just too busy to care, right? Why in the world would an audience want to care about something that's important to you? So you have to figure out how you are going to merge the two. So for you, you're super excited, you have all of your thoughts, you want to share all of that, but you need a couple of key things from your audience. First is you need buy-in. You need your audience to understand specifically what you're talking about, and them to, just like the shoelaces, to buy into that concept. And you want them to provide feedback. You talking at someone and then not providing feedback doesn't craft the conversation to be about them. It makes it about you the entire time. So there should be consistent back and forth during your presentation. Now, the audience is busy and distracted. Everyone uses that term busy a lot. Do you know anyone that says, I'm not really busy in life? Probably not. Most people are, for some reason, comparing with each other about how busy they are. It's like, well, I'm busier than you. Well, I'm busier than you. Well, I'm busier than you. And I don't know why that's like a cool thing, but people are consistently busy and distracted. The other thing when we're presenting is you're competing with a much more interesting world. When you think about social media, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, people are perfectly curating and crafting the messages that they want for themselves. So on my Instagram, I follow like 700 ski resorts because all I want to do is see pictures of mountains, and I'm interested in that. So when I go on Instagram, I'm immediately getting the feedback that's interesting to me. Same with Facebook, people follow the friends that they want. Same with Snapchat, you follow the friends that you're interested in seeing. So you're able to craft your story very easily. So when you're going in to have someone present to you, the person who's presenting is competing with that device on there that contains everything important to that person. And I think it's naive to say in a presentation, put your phones away and don't touch them, because we physically can't do that. But when you are competing with that, you have to kind of up your game. You have to be able to provide them something where they're able to stop their world for 30 minutes or an hour, and that's a really, really tough task. So you have to make it that it's extremely important that they listen, that they derive a lot of value from your talk that they can impart directly to their life. And I think that that's really key. The other thing is, most people don't know where you're going, particularly if you're crafting a presentation that doesn't have a very clear outline at the beginning. This is what we want to do. This is the effectiveness of this. This is why you want to listen. If you tell the story slowly and the punchlines at the end, you're not able to tell your audience why they should pay attention. And by the time you've gotten to the end, they've already checked out. So very clearly lay things out so they understand what you're talking about. They're definitely skeptical, and they might not know or care about your topic. Now, you guys are in here because hopefully you're not just supporting me if you are awesome, but maybe you're supporting WCS, but hopefully you're somewhat interested in this topic, so I have a captive audience. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you're stuck presenting like I am when I'm at the Army Reserve, two people who happen to be there, are forced to be there, and so you have a tougher hill to climb when you have that scenario. So just always assume that your audience doesn't care. They don't at all about what you have to say. And you are trying to get them to buy in completely. All right, so your goal, present the ideas and arguments that they can comprehend. Them specifically, the lowest level of intelligence at your table is the one that you want to essentially sell to. You want to convey your message in the least amount of time. So don't add extra stuff because you have time. And they are the stars of the show. All right, so this is how you craft your story. All right. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I have some notes because I have to make sure I have this. It's about a little girl named Leah. And little Leah, this is 1986, and little Leah is really, really excited about aerobics. And those of you not born in the 80s, you don't understand this phenomenon, that was aerobics. But little Leah was super obsessed with aerobics. She had leg warmers. She liked to do dancing. She liked the music that went along with aerobics. She watched videos all day. She was obsessed with Jane Fonda, and that was totally her thing. One day, Leah's mom thought that she was ready to step away from the aerobics classes on video and actually go to a real live aerobics class at the gym. So Leah's mom got her all dressed. Leah put on her own leotard. She braided her hair, put in bows, she put in the leg warmers, and set off to the gym for the first time ever. She was really excited to show the real aerobics goers what she had learned from her Jane Fonda tapes. So when she got to class, everyone was dressed to impress because this is the 80s. We had the leotards with the thongs. Anyone remember that? If you don't know the purpose of that, not flattering. We had the teased hair. We had the sweatpants across, just like Ari wears today. Really colorful and bright outfits. We've come full circle because that's kind of the thing now. And when the class was about to start, the instructor was so impressed that she called little Leah up to the front and said, "Leah, you look so great. You know, what a great leotard you have on." And little Leah was very confused, and she said, "What, how did you know?" And the instructor said, "How did I know what?" And she said, "How did you know I was wearing a leotard?" And the instructor said, "Well, you're wearing a leotard? Your mom's wearing a leotard." She goes, No, I'm wearing a leotard. Mom's wearing a mummy-tard." So that was a story that was told to me, obviously, by my mom. But when we think about that story, I was able to capture your attention about little Leah. My story has three main components, really simple: beginning, middle, and end, right? But it's easy, I think, to tell a story where you add in additional things that aren't related to beginning, middle, and end. So when we think about the story that I told you, does it have data? What did I tell you about data specifically that was important to my story?
Leggings and a leotard.
I had leggings, I was wearing a leotard, I was really, Jane Fonda fan, like really into it, so you could kind of see all of the components that went into that story. Did I have emotional texture?
Yeah.
Okay, so what type of emotion was there? Like excitement, like maybe cute, kind of cutesy, like you assess that kind of family relationship. You were able to see a young child that was really into that type of thing. And did it have a punchline? Yes, it had a punchline. There was a very clear ending that had a very clear punchline where people understood exactly the purpose of the story that I was telling. All right, so as simple as the themes, having beginning, middle, end, and thinking about those three things at the end allows you to craft a story that can be meaningful to your audience. Okay, probably none of you care that I wore a leotard, right? So that's my story. That's my story with my family, and we love that. We tell it, and we think it's great. But I was able to tell it to you, and you're able to listen to me because it made logical sense. Beginning, middle, end, emotional texture, and a punchline. Think about those when you're crafting your story anytime you're giving a presentation. All right. Okay, now I want to tell you another story. I'm going to read this to you. So, dear Shirley, remember last Saturday afternoon when I was playing in the park with my boyfriend and you came over and he told me when my back was turned you kissed him? And also on Sunday when you came to my house and my mom made you a tuna fish sandwich for lunch and you said, "Yes, that's the worst sandwich I ever ate." And yesterday, my cat brushed against your leg, you kicked her and threatened her to stick your dog Monster on her. Well, for those reasons, I hate you. I no longer want to be your friend, Lucy. All right, everyone gets my story? Good way to put it up on the screen?
No.
Probably not. This is a better way. Dear Shirley, I hate you. Here are my reasons. 1, you stole my boyfriend. 2, you insulted my mother. 3, you scared my cat. Easy enough, right? Okay, I took all of that mumbo jumbo, all of that extra information, I put it in a really succinct presentation so that I can impart what I needed to Shirley, tell her, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And it's very clear. So the key component to this when you're thinking about your story is you need to come up with what's called a governing statement. And what that is, that's the overall story, that's the picture, that's what you're trying to impart. If I'm Lucy, I'm trying to tell Shirley, I hate you. That's all I want her to know. But I also want Shirley to understand why I hate her. So these are the reasons that support my governing thought. So when you're crafting a story, it's great to outline that in a visual way. So here's a way that you can put it into a great structure. So my main governing thought, I hate you, Shirley. Reason 1, you stole my boyfriend. Reason 2, you insulted my mother. Reason 3, you scared my cat. When you do a presentation, you can craft it the exact same way. You can put the governing thought up front and center. That should be the main thing. It should not be ambiguous at all. Everyone should understand what you're trying to say. And then you should craft the presentation to support your main thought. So let's use an example that would be helpful in a work environment. So my example would be you're speaking to a client that wants to do venipuncture screenings. They're dead set on doing venipuncture screenings, but they don't really know a lot about finger sticks. What would be the way that you would craft it? So if we think about our main governing thought, what could that be? I want my client to do finger stick screenings. They want to do venipuncture screenings. I'm giving a presentation.
Finger stick screenings are more successful.
Finger stick screenings are more successful. Okay, that could be it. Anyone else have another suggestion? It could be anything, so it's like really open. Anyone have another thought? What's your governing thought? Think about your governing thought. What do you want the person to leave believing? Like
benefits of finger stick over venipuncture.
Benefits of finger stick, that's good. Benefits over. So That's perfect. Now, what I said is finger stick screens are better than venipuncture. Easy, simple. That's what I'm trying to say, right? I'm trying to say finger stick is a better option. Then I have three ideas that support my governing thought. One, they're less expensive. Two, results are immediate. Three, you have a higher participation rate. So when I'm speaking to a client, I would be able to create this governing thought and support it with my three reasons so that when you're done, that potential client or partner is believing what you believe, all right? Sometimes you can actually support your governing thought if you actually are able to present or anticipate what their arguments will be. And those would be subs, they'd be under here, where ahead of time you say, I know you're going to think that venipuncture is more accurate. However, I have XXX to back it up. So that's also helpful too. This is just a simple structure that you can use. All right. Convey it clearly. All right, so this is really, really important. And I love this concept, the concept of STAR when you're talking to people. And STAR stands for something they'll always remember. And if you think about it, if you're sitting in a seminar or presentation for a half an hour or an hour, maybe you remember tidbits of information. And from the years of doing nutrition presentation, that was always really, I always got that because people would come up to me after a presentation and they'd have like one or two things that they jumped on and they would ask me about that. They probably couldn't remember everything I said, but they had one or two nuggets of information. And the way you can create effective STARs is by using shocking stats, using key important visuals, dramatization, or anecdote, because people will remember stories, right? An example that I use is oftentimes when I would do this consistent presentation, I think Sarah LeBaron and I did probably 50 times for different Marriott locations, is we talked about nutrition, we talked about wellness, etc. And when it got to nutrition, I oftentimes referenced how low Americans consume fiber in general. And what I would ask the audience, I'd say, what do you think the recommended amount of fiber consumption should be for the average American? What is it, you know? 25 grams? 25 to 35, I think, is about right. Yep, unless that's changed. I'm a little out of practice. Has that changed? That's right, yay! And then I would say to the audience, I'd say, okay, well, what do you think the average American consumes? What do you think? 15? 15? What do you think? 8? 10? It's about 13. So 13, there's a huge difference between 13 and 25 to 35. And sometimes Americans are eating way less than half the amount that they need. That can actually be extraordinarily beneficial to their heart health, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes, by having them think about those statistics, they would latch on to that, okay, well, I need 25 to 35. Now they're comparing their own consumption to not only what the standard is, but they're also comparing it to what the normal person does, right? So now they know what is the best thing to shoot for, and they know what norm is, and they're wondering where they are. Are they somewhere in the middle? So they are actually creating some identification with my statistic, and that's really important, and they'll generally walk away with that. The other thing is we oftentimes use metaphors, and metaphors can be really helpful and useful. For example, if I'm really angry and I keep it inside me, a great metaphor is I've bottled up that anger, right? And that's a metaphor, right? My anger is, you can see like a Coke bottle, and you can see, you know, someone shakes it up, and it's got like all this anger, and like you can imagine someone opening and exploding. That's a great metaphor, that's a great visualization for how someone would feel if they were very, very angry. But oftentimes we kind of go overboard with metaphors. Here's a good metaphor for life. Man trying to eat soup out of the spaghetti strainer. He goes super fast, he's trying to get this food stuff, and no matter how much he gets, he just ends up with a bunch of soup all over his pants, and then he dies of old age. So we use metaphors so poorly because we try and get too much out of it. Make it simple, make it easy, make it effective, use ones that already have been used. Don't try and tell a story. If you have to explain your metaphor, it's not a metaphor that you should use. Okay? Easy enough. All right, be you. Okay, so for this, I actually need to have 2 volunteers that aren't afraid to stand in front of this camera. Come on up, Erin. Anyone else? Yes, perfect. All right. Okay, we're going to have you go first. Erin's going to have 20 seconds to talk about any topic she wants to. Ready, set, go.
I really like to run. I've done multiple half marathons in a bunch of different cities across the country. My favorite was in New Orleans. It was really flat, which is obviously ideal because I went out earlier because it's New Orleans.
Woo,
and it was a good time.
Good job. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Today for breakfast I had avocado toast. It's my new favorite breakfast. I eat it every single day. And I first and foremost toast my pistachios because I have found that the best way to eat pistachios is they're toasted. So I put it in with the bread at the same time, so it comes out at the exact same time.
Very good. All right. Excellent job. It's really hard to really hard to, like, no matter how comfortable you are, it's really hard to have to come up with something on the spot. And each of them did that very well. You know, they were able to convey what they had to say. Not a lot of ums. I was very impressed. All right. Now, I need the two of you to tell us both the same story that you told, but you're going to do it at the same time. We're going to judge who the winner is based on who conveys it more effectively to us. Ready, set,
My favorite curse.
talk. We're going to go
My
story. Guys, you can talk over each other.
I really like to run. I've done a lot of
competing with her.
I've done them in multiple different cities.
I also
You're competing with her.
that it's the best case.
Really
Much
love
And I chose the same time.
Love it. My favorite activity.
All right, stop. Good. Okay, what happened in that? What was the difference? Did anyone see the difference? Kind of? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah.
Tell me, more animated? What else?
Yeah, the sound or drown each other out.
That's
They
true.
really have some sort of engaging other element when Erin was doing running or something else.
Right.
To break up the monotony.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Competition.
Competition's always good, definitely. The two of them, both of them actually increased their tone a little bit. Both of them used more hand gestures and were actually explaining with their hand and their body. Erin, I prompted her.
Yeah,
I
like, I know.
I wanted her to get my point. Erin ran a little bit, so everyone's eyes drifted to her when she did that, and then she started to do this, which is engaging. She started to do this, engaging with the audience. All right, so all of a sudden she's moving forward, she's leaning forward, and she's starting to become one with the audience. And I think you guys can sit down. Thank you. Thank you. Yay! It is a secondary thought. It's hard to come up here and really think about where your hands are. I think I often rock back and forth. We all have the things that we end up doing, but being aware of what you do is going to be really helpful in you being a better presenter. But in general, for us to engage, it's important to step forward. It is important to use arms. It's important to use our hands. It's important to make eye contact with a lot of different people in the room. And when the two of them were competing for your attention, you could see that Erin was starting to do that. All right. It is good when I talk about a marathon to start to jog, right? Because that's something different. You wouldn't have thought that I was going to talk about marathon. You know, maybe you started to be bored, but I just captured your attention just in that moment. All right. So there's another thing I think is also really important is our tone and the way that we speak. And this is really, really important for those of us who do spend a lot of time on webinars. So if you're presenting on a webinar, it's very easy to get into the sing-song tone of what a typical webinar sounds like, right? So it's like, I'm going to share with you your cohort reporting numbers. And so here on the screen, we see that your BMI is at a normal level. Do I talk like that in real life? I don't know why on a webinar we have this weird sing-songy voice. I don't think that that's necessarily an effective way to talk and communicate. So sometimes you can, if you visualize, or maybe you even have someone in your room or near you that you're looking at and you're talking to, that will help you to talk more conversationally. So instead of you reading slides or bullets, you're actually able to conversationally have an engagement with that person. But also, with the pitch in your voice, you can convey a whole ton of different things. So I'm going to give you an example of every single one of these. All right, someone give me a sentence to say. Any sentence. Nothing embarrassing.
Rachel likes avocado toast.
Thank you. Again, I can say, Rachel likes avocado toast. All right, that was pretty absurd, right? I can say, Rachel likes avocado toast. Caution. I can say, Rachel likes avocado toast. Even if you're not looking at me, you can tell my tone is critical. You can say, Rachel likes avocado toast. I can say, Rachel likes avocado toast. Motivational. I can say, Rachel likes avocado toast. Or I can say, Rachel likes avocado toast, which is neutral. I'm not imparting anything from that one. But every single one of them, I'm imparting some sort of emotion that you can connect with. And particularly on webinars, when you can't see my face, and I should have done those like this, you could probably tell my tone is different. I'm trying to get that participant or that whoever's listening in to read between the lines. And then they'll be able to understand what my tone is actually trying to convey. All right, so key concepts when it comes to our speaking, it's really, really important to tell your story and to relive experiences through your emotions. The more authentic you are in the way that you present, the more you're able to show humility, transparency, authenticity, the more people will engage with you. I told you a personal story about myself growing up, right? So you're able to relate to me a little bit more because I opened up to you on that. Effective speakers oftentimes are sharing some tidbit of information that's related to them. And so then you feel like you have a personal connection with that person, even if you're one of 100 or 200 or 500 in the room. That personal connection allows you to pay more attention to yourself. You care about that person. You care about what happened to me when I went to that aerobics class. Maybe you care about that person, that guy who tied his shoes, right? Because he was having an issue with his shoes coming untied. There has to be a connection, otherwise people will stop listening to you. I actually think self-deprecation and humility can go a long way. When you're giving a presentation, if you're consistently presenting on theories, you're saying 35 grams is your goal for fiber, that may be helpful and important, but what if I told a story or an anecdote about how, I knew a client that one time had 10 grams every day, or he didn't have enough fiber, and then he ended up getting, really awful high cholesterol, and then he changed his fiber, and he was able to, eat 30 grams a day, and then all of a sudden his cholesterol went down. That's a more impactful story sometimes. So think about where you can use someone's story, your own story, to share that information in a more engaging manner. So coming full circle, what did these guys do right? Based on what I talked about, what did they do right? Let's talk about the guy on the left. What did he do right?
Engage with the audience.
Engage with the audience, exactly. What else?
Shared a personal story.
Shared a personal story, exactly. What about Star? Think about Star. Yeah, a good visual, right? Simple, to the point, not over the top, didn't need PowerPoint. By the way, the reason I had this black PowerPoint is I wanted you to see that you have absolutely no need, when you're giving a good engaging presentation, you don't really necessarily need to have audio visual. Sometimes it's just simple to convey what you're saying in the way that you're saying it. Did she do anything right?
No.
Nothing at all.
Her voice is extremely flat.
Her voice.
I mean, she presented PowerPoint.
She presented.
Ready.
She was prepared. Absolutely. She was prepared. And, and she had a lot of information. So she wasn't completely wrong. She had a lot of information. And even on the slide here, we didn't even get to it. She had some pictures on there, which is way too many pictures. But she was presenting on a topic that was important to her. And so she didn't, she could obviously use some public speaking, improvements and some PowerPoint presentation improvements, which we're going to talk about next time. That's a teaser for the next time we'll come up and talk about this. But she had some knowledge that she wanted to impart that she was somewhat passionate about. She just wasn't able to convey that in that moment. And I think oftentimes when it comes to public speaking, we do let ourselves, our minds take over, and we can get very nervous and do a lot of, I do it all the time. As long as it's just a part of who you are, people will forgive you. And as long as you are authentic with the way that you present things and you're presenting stories that are meaningful to your audience, you will be able to convey your story in a really, really effective manner. With that, I believe that's it. Do I have any questions? Simple? All right. Anybody have any questions? I'll see you in the webinar.
Did you record it?
I did. Chat. Okay. Anyone have any questions for in the room? Should have a section that was like, what to do when no one asks questions. Just stop. It was easy. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. You do have personal questions, just feel free to come and ask me. Yeah, absolutely.
In a public speaking class, you guys maybe in college, I heard you're never supposed to say sorry, like if you slip up and say something wrong, or like if anyone is saying sorry, draws attention, and everyone will focus on that and take something from
Right.
a slideshow.
Right.
So what are you supposed to do? Like, when you say, excuse me, like if you,
Or rather.
you really just can't say
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah, I do think that sorry conveys a really, it puts you in a defensive position, which is not good because you want to have command over your audience. But I don't know if I think that there is truth and authenticity to acknowledging when there's a problem, right? So if you just let it go and pretend like nothing's wrong, then I think the audience knows that you're very nervous and that you're upset about what happened. Whereas if you acknowledge, like for example with technological difficulties, if I was freaking out up here about this and not saying anything, I think you guys could be like, she's really nervous. Instead I was like, I've got tech problems, it happens every time. I think you were able to just let that go and understand that that's just a part of what happened. So I don't know if sorry, maybe, I apologize, or we're just working on this. Acknowledging it, I think it's really important, but I do think the term sorry puts you in kind of defensive mode. I think that's a good question. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, to tease next time, we're going to take this to the next level, and besides the way that you convey with your speaking skills and abilities, Will and I are going to present some basic things on how you can effectively manage your PowerPoint and your presentation as a whole. So how you would develop your story and structure, and then how you would use essentially animations, use white space, the correct colors, types of fonts, that type of thing, to have a really effective and good presentation. So we'll see you in about a month. Thank you.